Hello, this is Mars Lab at BBL Lab, and today I'm with Tola Okiki from the Worcester Wolves. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just in
Yeah,
Worcester right now, just relaxing, not doing much today.
yeah. Well, yeah, because the season's done now. But so today, well, I made sure to kind of do this episode outside of the basketball season because today's going to be on the topic of racism because I thought it'd be better to do it outside of basketball when eyes aren't on basketball, so there's the attention isn't taken away. So we'll get started, and obviously there's been a lot of I can't as you could say awareness, but would you say the situation is improved, with the amount of racism that's gone on over the past year?
No, I don't really feel like the
Mm.
situation's improved. I feel like racism has not been solved. Things haven't changed. Well,
Yeah,
things
yeah.
have changed in terms of awareness, and I feel like the conversations are starting to happen more. Things are being highlighted more, but in terms of like things improving, I don't really feel like any real change has happened yet. In
Yeah.
terms of maybe political legislation being put in order, nothing has really changed. Um, I feel like over this year, I've had more in-depth conversations with people about race
Mm.
and conversations surrounding maybe not solutions for racism, because this is a 500-year-old problem that we're dealing with. This isn't just a year or 2 years or just like
Mm.
this conflict going on. This has been 500 years of oppression of several different minorities. So it's something that we're changing over time. But no, I don't feel like things have changed really. I don't feel like the situation's improved, especially for myself. Maybe I'm pessimistic, but I don't really feel like things have changed as much as maybe people are saying it has, or maybe from the outside it looks like it has.
Yeah, well, I know obviously for myself, I haven't necessarily experienced it, but I kind of know a bit more about it, and what is racist and not, because until it's kind of pointed out, sometimes you don't realize, oh wow, that's bad. So in sports specifically, with the BBL, what would you say the BBL and other leagues can do, in order to tackle racism?
Um, I feel like first and foremost, I believe in like using your platform. So
Yeah,
as a league, we have a platform, even though people don't feel like we do, or people like bash the BBL, just British basketball as a whole, for some reason. But I think we all have a platform. Like I think the BBL official account might have, I think, over 10,000, over twenty
yeah,
thousand
yeah,
followers,
yeah. I'll
which
check
they can
now.
use to interact and like spread the message through. I think there's so many different BBL media outlets now. You the Hooper's Voice, BBL
Yeah,
Fix,
yeah,
um, Brit Brit Ballers. Like there's so many different people that have a platform that they can use their platform to educate people about racism and what's racism, how to like maybe change their biases and so on and so forth.
yeah. So
That's my first main point. But then obviously people always say, how can you use your platform? I'll say to like educate. That's the
mm,
main thing. I feel like education is the thing that's going to really change the way people think. Education and re-education. Those are like the two main things. And it's like it's weird to kind of speak to a 40-year-old man or woman and like tell them that you need to educate yourself. They will be like, what are you talking about? Like I'm grown, I've got to this point in
yeah,
my life
yeah,
being educated. But them kind of really understanding that maybe the way they think or maybe the way they say things, like that's wrong, and there's different ways that they can do things.
yeah,
Um Using your platform to like start a conversation as well. Like
mm,
the BBL being able to challenge other people's biases and speak to people that I may not be able to reach because I don't have as wide reach as the BBL does. That can really help. Then also giving like the players a voice. Like you have players in this league that are from a bunch of different countries, that are from America, from England, from Australia, um, that are black, that have their own perspective on
yeah,
racism, that
yeah,
they've had their own experiences, that can all give their point of view and educate people on what racism is like in all these other countries and educate people on how to change their biases and not be as racist, if you know what I mean, or not
yeah.
be racist overall, because there is no acceptable amount of racism.
Oh no, and that's the thing. I guess I've seen that a couple of times with the UK being deemed as the the kind of the least racist, but the least racist is obviously still racist. Therefore, it still needs to change, and I guess
That,
that's
that, that,
go
so
on, go on.
I don't know about you, but like that whole statistic of UK being the least racist, like that, it's funny in the sense that like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You're asking, it's like asking someone that's never broke their leg, how many people have broken their leg before? It's like they have no concept of what a broken leg is like. They've never been a part of it. UK, I think in the UK is, I think it's 3% of the UK's population are black. And I feel like most of the people that they asked if the UK are racist probably weren't black. They probably weren't from a minority overall. It was probably from someone that looks more like you than looks more like me.
Yeah.
So it's like from their perspective, they may not know the issues going on because it doesn't affect them, which is like a normal thing to happen. A lot of people don't know that it's an issue because it doesn't affect them. It's like I cannot speak to how a woman would feel about gender roles, or how uh, someone that's a part of the LGBTQ community would feel about that, because that's not something I have to go through on a regular day, because it's just not something that pertains to me. But someone that is black, they obviously do feel racism on probably on a regular, every single day basis. They may not say it, they may not yell about it all the time, but it's something that everyone goes through. Everyone can. I feel like everyone that's black in England can probably tell you a point in this week where someone was racist to them. If it was overt in terms of them saying the N-word to them or so on and so forth, or it was covert to where it was like underlying and an issue that you can't really call out as being super racist, but it was definitely something that like was racial, like definitely something that was racial there.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's kind of those instances that I guess the tough ones, because you kind of know that it is racist, but then the other person that's kind of done it can argue, I didn't mean anything by it, and that sort of thing. Even though you are, it's blatantly obvious, what they've done. So
But I don't know. I feel like that's okay. So for me, I always say ignorance is fine. Ignorance in the term of lack of knowledge. That's what ignorance means. And if you don't understand something and you don't know, and for me personally, everyone has their own different interpretation. But for me, if you don't actually know and you've actually made a mistake, that's fine. You're always redeemable after that point. But if you do know and you're making a decision to continuously be racist after you know it's wrong, then I have nothing to say to you. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's from the heat of the moment or you were just angry. Like if you was angry and the first thing you went to was to say something racist to me, nah, I'm not really with that. Like you've kind of shown your cards at this point, and we kind of know who you are right now.
Yeah.
But just to go back to the whole what the leagues can do and what BBL can do. For me, I've always said that like you can't, like if the B I feel like this year the BBL has kind of chosen not to say too much. We've taken a knee this year and we've done the whole like taking a knee and whatever, but it's like Colin Kaepernick, the person that really started this whole movement of taking a knee, he took a knee in stance of police brutality. And police brutality, particular to black people. But like we've just kind of taken a knee without any message behind it or any action behind it, which takes away from the value of it. If I was just doing something just for the sake of it, without having a message or without having a stance behind it, or even maybe trying to implement any change behind it, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. And I feel like the league could have done more in terms of like, even if it's just an announcement before every game, or them maybe trying to educate people through their platforms or doing something of the sort, that could have really made a big change, instead of just them like, oh, we're just going to take a knee, but we're not going to say anything about it. That doesn't mean anything. That's why there was different players around the league that stopped taking the knee in terms of BBL, MBL, WWBBL, and WNBL. People just stopped taking the knee because they were like, we're not doing anything. What's the point? There's no really impact behind it.
Yeah, but well, one of my questions was, did kneeling achieve anything? Because I guess one thing it does do, but from my perspective anyway, is it kind of it tells you every game you watch, it's there, and it kind of reminds you of of racism. But yeah, so
it brings a little bit of awareness. So I'd say that's the one thing that it does. It does bring awareness, because someone may ask, oh, what are they doing? What's that for? But I thought you can always do more than just like bring.
Oh, of course.
And even then, some games they never even said why they were doing it. They were just taking a knee. And if I was someone at home that had no idea what racism was or no idea what taking a knee was, I would have I wouldn't understand it at all.
Yeah. So to bring perspective, to people watching or listening, I guess, of what can be deemed as racist, would it be okay if you could, I guess, or tell me what your kind of first experience of, you know, racism was for you, or most common kind of experience, or, you know?
Yeah. I've had this conversation with people in the past, and I feel like a lot of Black people that do live in like the Western society. So when I mean Western society, I mean kind of the Western Hemisphere, so like Europe and countries like that, where we are the minority in most of these countries. Most of our earliest instances with racism is that it kind of was stuff we didn't realize at the time. Like for me, instances that maybe happened when I was in primary school, or even reception at the earliest, being told I can't do this or I can't do that, or like I'm not allowed there, I'm not allowed here, like, or connotations of being like Black people are criminals and things like that. Like I didn't really understand it when I was younger. Even like I'm literally maybe 5, 6 years old, 7 years old. I didn't really understand it, or like being a kid in school and going into a shop and like them saying we can't have a certain amount of people in the shop, and it's like my friends that would go in the shop, they don't look like me, and aren't the same skin color as me. They can go in the shop and no one ever stops them. But when I go in the shop, it's a problem. But as a kid, I maybe never even I didn't really understand it. But it's like now as I've got older, I kind of realized that's not right. That's not okay. Things shouldn't have been that way. But there's a lot of Black people that have that same experience. That racism is such a thing that's ingrained in them and was conditioned in them from when they were younger, that maybe as they go older, they start to accept it. But now kind of realizing that these things aren't right, and where our society's kind of going, we kind of start to question it more. And I'll say things have got better in that like sense, to where the older we get, we've kind of understood that this is racist and we should like really push back against these barriers that have been held up in front of us.
So you know, we've talked about, you know, what can be deemed as racist, you know, and what's happened in the past, but going forward, I guess, how do we change and, you know, and try and tackle it? Or
how do we change? That's another difficult question. I feel like, so my main thing, like the post I made early in the year, and like I can read it back to you now. I can just read back the 4 points I made. It was just like a small ways to combat systemic racism, and the first one was re-education. And I feel like with re-education, that's one of the first points I said. Re-education is just taking the time to do the research and learn and have conversations and see where you might have gone wrong in the past and how you can change your perspective. Of course, you may not be able to have this conversation with everyone. You may not, some people may not be as open to have this conversation with you, because racism is very traumatic for a lot of people, including myself. There's some days I do not want to talk about race at all, because it's something I cannot escape. Every single day, I'm gonna go through some form of racism, one way or the other, if I want to avoid it or not. If like I've not gone looking out for it. I've not done anything differently than anyone else, but for some reason, someone's gonna always find an issue of like, he doesn't belong here, or why is he here, or do you have a problem, or something. So one of those ways. But obviously, people learning and educating themselves of where they might have gone wrong, or where they need to learn more and be more open-minded. Those ways are ways that can help systemic racism. My next point was just obviously to use your privilege. I feel like, so you right now, you obviously are a white male, and you're obviously trying to educate yourself on racism and just race in general. But as you educate yourself, you being able to like understand that you can speak to maybe your mom, dad, sister, brother, cousin, uncle, whatever, and educate them on what you know, and understand that they obviously, because they do love you and you do look like them, they are more likely to listen and be open to your opinion. And like you being able to use your privilege, you can actually change their biases, which then can help other Black people. And you can just be like an ally that obviously you have access to people that I wouldn't have access to. Do you know what I mean?
I understand that.
My next point was obviously be aware of the commonness of stereotyping. Like a lot of people don't realize that they're like stereotyping someone in that certain way. Like for me, like I walked into a building I walk in every single day for the last 9 months. And when I walked in there, the woman was looking at me like I didn't belong, even though I've been in this building every day for the last 9 months. And I had to ask her a couple of times, like, is she okay? Like, is she all right? And she kept staring. And it was like, I knew why you're staring at me. But because like I'm this semi-tall Black person with braids in my hair, like in an area where there isn't a lot of people that look like me.
Yeah.
But it's like she may have not even realized that she was obviously stereotyping me for a certain way in her head if she thought I was this person or that person from whatever stereotypes that are traditionally labeled for Black people. But
Yeah.
which I'm not. I'm just a basketball player that plays basketball every single day at university. That's
Yeah.
all I
Yeah.
am. I have nothing else. But obviously, people like that understanding that they are stereotyping someone and being able to think and stop their thoughts like, oh, he's scary. Oh, but no, he's not. He's just a regular person. Why am I thinking that way? That is something that people literally like. These are all things that cost nothing, doesn't take up any time. It's just something that people can do straight away that can just help.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then my last point was obviously to reframe differences. Like instead of like shying away from talking about race, instead of shying away from like comparing each other or talking about how your life is different to mine and how my life is different to yours, us being able to actually conversate about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
me being able to tell you my experiences and you being able to tell me your experiences and maybe where the disconnect began and where maybe you didn't see things the way I saw things, and maybe where I can explain things better to you to where
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
have a better look on life. Those are just different. Those are just four ways that like I feel like can help systemic racism as a whole. Because the thing with systemic racism is because you can't break down the system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to persecute people that's within the system is kind of it's not wrong, but it's kind of unfair because the people in the system they've just done what's been dictated to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
The system tells them what they should do, and they just play a role within the system. If they even if they weren't in the system, someone else would be in the system playing the exact same role. So those people need to be educated and their minds to be changed to where they can reform the system within it. Because people would want to be in positions of power and so on and so forth, but when they get there, they realize they don't have the power to. But if you can then affect more people and get more people on your side, you then will have the power to make change within the system.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
system of racism is bigger than just government. It's bigger than just parliament and so on and so forth. It's in little everyday things.
Yeah.
It's as big as someone that's a teacher that has to teach a group of kids about Black History Month. It's as big as the manager that works at the co-op that has to hire a kid for a summer job. But instead of looking at the kid like, oh, he's this Black kid with all these negative connotations, you're just looking at him like, okay, this is just a kid that just wants a job. That's just like
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. Yeah.
All these little small things that people don't ever think about. That is what makes Black people feel like they're oppressed or feel like we're the marginalized people all the time. Because in all these small situations, it's someone that's like kind of pushing us to the side over
Yeah.
and over again. I can go into a job interview. It's just Waitrose, it's just Co-op, it's just Tesco. It's nothing big at all. I just want to work, just want to earn some extra money. And the person that's interviewing me, as soon as I sit down and I speak to him, he's already moving a bit off of me. And people can be like, oh, maybe he's having a bad day, all of these type of things. But it's like, it's more than that because
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
person has a story just like that. And it's like, if it's not just a coincidence, it can't be a coincidence that you all have a story of where someone has treated us in a weird way for some random reason.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Well, I know something with like with systematic racism is something within the media, especially in with sport. For instance, I remember with Raheem Sterling, the way if he does something, the title's completely different to if a white person does it. Another point
Exactly.
with your educating thing, I think it comes down to schools as well, because I know I've just finished my GCSEs. I know you get 1 month or you might get one lesson on Black History Month, but that's it for the year. So you very rarely tend to learn about Black history. So
Yeah. So with the media thing, like the Raheem Sterling things is ridiculous at this
yeah,
point. I think
yeah,
it's so clear to everyone that it doesn't make sense. Like
yeah,
just one example, like was it Harry Maguire that plays for Man U, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
The whole issue this summer. If that was Raheem Sterling, I don't think he would be playing in the Premier League right now.
Oh no, no,
But
no.
but Harry Maguire still has the Man U captain job. He still played all the games this season. He had no issues, anything. But if that was Raheem Sterling, I do not see that happening. I don't
Yeah,
think he's
yeah.
even in the Premier League this season at all. I think his football career might have been over
Yeah,
if it was the exact same situation.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But to talk about Black History Month in schools and stuff, so I had a conversation with a history teacher. She works in a private school in Cornwall, and we was having the same conversation about Black History Month, and she was
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
like she would have a lot of she felt weird teaching it because she didn't have enough knowledge.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, the syllabus is very limited in terms of what she could have taught, and she was also told that she wasn't allowed to have an she was also told she wasn't allowed to have an opinion on Black History Month, which is a very weird thing to have when it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like a big month and there's so much like you can be so passionate with something that is such as so important as the civil rights movement, as slavery, as all these things, but she's not allowed to have an opinion. She's not allowed to really go into detail, and the school doesn't really want her to teach as much. But I understand it. They obviously when you do your GCSEs and you do your exams, there is no really questions about Black History Month
Yeah, yeah.
or Black history as a whole.
No, no, no.
And it's like I don't think you can really go into detail on teaching maybe 15-year under kids about slavery as as real as it is.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we're all told that, oh yeah, the slaves got whipped, but slavery is way more
Yeah.
gruesome than anything that anyone can even think about. And I
Yeah.
don't even want to go into detail right now because it is that real.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was such a crazy time that people don't even understand how crazy it is. But even then, if you didn't even want to talk about slavery from that point of view, in terms of the physical harm that the slaves went through and the trauma that they went through at the time, you could also speak about the economic factor of it. Slavery built America. There's the
Yeah,
reason America is as wealthy as it is now is
yeah.
because of slavery. You had 400 years of unpaid labor. Like if any country had that, things would be insane.
Yeah, yeah,
Then
yeah.
on top of it, when the slaves were freed, the government was paying the people that freed their slaves
Yeah,
like
yeah.
compensation for freeing their slaves. Then there were still companies and banks in America right now that were getting like payments back from companies and organizations for giving them loans to buy slaves to begin with, even
Mm.
though the slaves were freed, I think 200 years ago, or close to 200 years ago. But it's like it's all these different layers and different things that people never ever think about, which is all propped up the economy and propped up all these organizations for centuries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously, we mentioned the letter, the Instagram post and the Twitter post. Yeah, was it an open letter to the BBL or something like that?
Yeah, so it's just an open letter to the BBL, players, coaches,
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
just involved in the BBL just about like what we can do better. And just it was just one person's perspective, just my perspective on just what I thought things could have been and how things could have been better. Like I always say, or not always say, it's a quote that I've stolen. Um, that like people that when you don't say anything, when people are being oppressed, you choose the side of the oppressor.
yeah, yeah,
As
yeah,
the oppressed people or the marginalized people, we don't have a voice. We can't really we can scream and shout as much as we want, but we only make up 3% of the population.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's not much. We're not really gonna do much. If
Mm.
people want to ignore us, it's not gonna nothing's gonna happen. But if
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have allies, we have other corporate organizations and people helping us, things will get way things can actually start to change and things can start to help. But I feel like this year the BBL kind of just like didn't say anything.
yeah.
Or they may have made a couple posts. We did the media blackout thing, which I feel like a lot of people kind of disagreed with. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
Uh,
know. Of course, I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping that the BBL is trying and they do want things to be better.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't know. Maybe they need help from other people. Maybe they need other suggestions. Maybe they should open the floor up to players to kind of help with giving them ideas of how things can get better. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, it seemed, I guess you could say it seemed like they were doing kind of what they needed to do, for it to be kind of deemed acceptable. They needed to put out, I guess, a tweet or a post here and there just to make, to make them look okay and to make,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So my final question is, obviously racism is it's a worldwide thing. How long do you think it will take to kind of eradicate racism from sports and just people's daily life?
Um, Not to give like the pessimistic answer, but like I don't think it will. I don't think things will ever be eradicated, or not for generations on generations. I don't think it's ever going to
Yeah,
work that
yeah,
way. Like even if things are put into legislation to really condemn racism, so if
yeah,
this
yeah,
person was racist, they would be in jail for 5 to 10 years. All these type of things. Like I don't think that would really change things because criminals still exist. Like
Yeah,
there's laws against everything, and people still commit crimes.
yeah,
So I don't think that's going to change. I don't think legislation will change a lot, but I don't think racism will ever be eradicated. I feel like
yeah,
issues within class and people wanting to feel like they're better than other people, that will always exist. That will never ever change. Even though I would hope that it would change one day, because obviously I don't want my kids or kids or whatever
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
have to go through racism, because it's not something that like I would want anyone to go through. It's difficult at times.
yeah. Well,
Well, difficult at times. It's difficult all the time.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but it's not something I see having a quick fix. This is, as I said, 500 years of issues. It's not something that's going to take a couple years to
Yeah,
deal with.
yeah, yeah,
You can talk about slavery, you can talk about colonization, you can talk about destabilizing so many different countries. Like I'm Nigerian in terms of ethnicity, but my country has only been independent for 70 years. My country's 70 years old. A lot of people's
yeah,
grandparents, my grandparents are way older than the independence of Nigeria,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is insane to think about. Then
Mm,
people talk about countries, about how they're third world countries, but it's like, okay, you went to this country, you colonized it, you destabilized the social economic
yeah,
structure, took all the resources, left, then said this country still needs to pay you taxes or pay you
yeah,
money over time, being a part of the Commonwealth, but you're not gonna. But this country is terrible and corrupt and all these things. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's how it goes.
But it's
It's
not even
just
Nigeria that has that same story. There's so many different countries that have
yeah.
the same.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, obviously, like you said, there's a lot of things in order to, I guess at the minute it's kind of just preventing it as much as you can. Everyone just trying to make it just I guess minimize minimize how much it occurs. But so it's been great having this conversation. I guess it's educated me a bit more on the whole situation, and I hope everyone listening and watching kind of understands a bit more on so my final question before we go to the people watching and listening, in order to change, what would you say to them people to kind of do?
I would say literally just have these conversations. Have
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the different conversations. If you don't want to reach out to someone you may know, if they don't want to talk about it, I message me. I'm ready to have conversations with anyone that is open to changing their mind, or someone has a different opinion to me. Like I'm always ready to have conversations with people when it comes
yeah,
to race. Like I may not respond straight away. Maybe I don't feel like up to it that day, but I'll definitely get back to you, because I feel like this is a very, very important topic that we need to
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about, and
for
things
sure.
need to change. Like things need to change, and like I always feel like, hey, if someone has to do something, like why not me? Like I'm trying to help make
Yeah,
change. I'm
yeah,
trying to change. Like at the end of the day, I can always say I promise I tried. Even if the change is marginal and it's not that big, like I promise I tried.
yeah, yeah. Well, so yeah, it's been great talking to you, and I guess hopefully the situation with racism can improve, and as soon as it can. Yeah, I guess.
Hopefully. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.